Good day, ma'am. My name is Justin A. Saranda from BZ1F. I will discuss the following question in the readings in the Philippine history. Every Filipino uses history as a reference for their present and future plans. Learning about the past of our nation helps us recognize the sacrifices and accomplishments of our national heroes. Additionally, it improves our sense of nationalism and builds our sense of national identity. History reveals our past selves which shape who are today. Our history serves as our viewpoint in the past that shape us Filipinos today. We learn from it, gain skills from it, and most importantly, we have the knowledge from our ancestors. The understanding of the past is why it is important to study Philippine history. It serves as both a history from the past and a kind of collective memory in our lives. We need to understand the past in order to recognize the present and future conditions of our nation. Philippine history is very important because of our history. We have the identity, we have knowledge of the past. Because of history, we know what happened in the past. Learning our history will make us a good citizen of Philippines. Because we know the story of our past, it helps us to show how we got into where we are now and understand why our country is not progressing for many decades. Now, because our perception in history influence how we perceive the present, it may be simple for contemporary generations to preserve history and transmit it to succeeding generations so they can understand what actually occurred in the past. Philippine history preserve our culture as a Filipino. It's very important to our nation. Our history makes us stronger now. We respect our nation and culture. The history of the Philippines between 900 and 1565 begins with the creation of the Laguna Copper Plate inscription in 900 and ends with Spanish colonization in 1565. The inscription records this date of creation in the year of 1822 of the Hindu Saka calendar corresponding to 980 in the Gregorian system. Therefore, the recovery of this document marks the end of prehistory of the Philippines at 980. During this historical period, the Philippine archipelago was home to numerous kingdoms and sultanates and was a part of the terrorized Indosphere and Sinosphere in 1521. The Spaniards, led by Ferdinand Magellan, discovered the island. The Spanish conquistadors established a colonial government in Cebu. In 1565, they transferred the seat of government to Manila, and 1561 they proceeded to colonize the country. In Spanish, Philippine literature first emerged. Before the Spanish arrived, the islands had a thriving literature culture, but it was the Spanish who began to print the tales and stories. This process of blending culture is evident in writings of Rizal, the most famous Filipino author and national hero. Spain's policy towards the Philippines, its lone colony in Asia, had three goals: increase its portion of the spice trade, establish relations with China and Japan in order to support Christian missionary activities there, and convert the Filipinos to Christianity. Before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, the people lived in small towns called barangays. The leader of a barangay was called a tatu. Many barangays would cluster together for safety and protection. This way of life could have a great effect on the languages at this time. Therefore, by this time, the Spaniards arrived the island. The Filipinos had created a way of life and unique culture that suited and satisfied them. They possessed a calendar, a system of weights and measures, a writing system, some aspect of laws, certain religious belief with influences from both Hinduism and Islam, and some proficiency in metalworking, pottery production, and weaving. Our history begins in the definite time where our ancestors freed from the colonization of Spain, Japan, and America. We have a culture then, our own language, native language. We're rich in culture and knowledge led by our ancestors. We have our own political dynasty, our warrior who have our weapons and army led by the Tatu Lapu-Lapu. We are colonized by the Spain, our culture and everything become a history from the past. Reading in a textbook or just in the Philippine Museum. Through Philippines history, we've learned and observed the beginning and development of our country. Philippines history is very rich in culture. We have different national heroes that fight for our freedom. The culture of the Philippines comprises a blend of traditional Filipino and Spanish Catholic traditions. with influences from America and other parts of Asia. The Filipinos are family-oriented and often religious with an appreciation for art, fashion, music, and food. The Philippines archipelagic geography, which includes more than 7,000 islands, supports a variety of cultures and traditions. However, these islands are united by a variety of traditions, with a turbulent past under the rule of Spanish, the US, and Japan. It's safe to conclude that these interactions have given the Filipinos people a distinctive personality. Filipinos enjoys having a good time and friendly people. Together, they will frequently sing, dance, and eat. The annual calendar is jam-packed with celebrations, many of which incorporate pre-Christian nationalisms, attire, and traditions with modern Catholics because of the colonial influences and those of its neighbors. The Philippines have a particularly distinctive culture. The Filipinos have worked incredibly hard and are dedicated to improving their family's future. These traditions and cultures makes our Philippines unique in some way and being colonized for more than centuries, but it doesn't make us weak, but it makes us stronger to fight for our freedom and cultures. As a Filipino, I'm proud that I'm Filipino and I'm learning our history, reading stories from our national heroes who fight for our freedom. Jose Rizal, the greatest hero of the Filipinos who died for his own people, but instead influenced other Asian nations as well to exercise their rights as a free people. Dr. Jose Rizal is one of the most revered figures in the Philippines history. He was a multifaceted intellectual and a political activities, best known for his political writings that inspires the Philippines Revolution and ultimately led to his execution by the Spanish colonizers. Philippines is a nation with many different cultural influences. The majority of these effects are byproducts of earlier colonizations, primarily coming from Spanish American cultures. The traditional Asian culture of the Filipinos has been preserved and is evident in their way of life, beliefs, and rituals. Despite of all of these influences, Filipino culture is quite visible everywhere you go and has generally been valued and even praised in many parts of the world. Our notable culture and tradition makes our history unique. We have our own values in life before the coming of Spaniards. Being Filipino is what I am proud of. We are not just rich in culture, but we have a values and a traits as a Filipino. The love in our nation is what we are gained in our Philippine history.